Hi there, Randi Green here. Let us continue. It should now be clear that we are in some kind of timeline war, meaning that the timelines are connected to our racial gridworks, that are connected to the holographic networks of our planet, and by that connected to our energy systems in different ways and forms, as explained in the transition science course material. Once we understand that our energy fields are connected to the planet itself, we also understand how we are interconnected to other people that are close to us or are within our vicinity, such as neighbors, our surroundings, and people that are living around us. I have talked about that many other places as well. Such as now, where it is afternoon, the sun is descending. It has been a rainy day here, and I got that information yesterday. My neighbor has come home, and my neighbor is cleaning and playing loud music that has electronic boom, 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 boom. That is, of course, affecting me while I'm trying to do this podcast. However, I will do my very best to balance it out and continue, because the level of information in regards to the sun is most fresh today, since yesterday I was granted the ability to go for a walk for the first time in 6 days, because the previous 6 days, the crisscrossing on the sky had been so heavy that, due to my understanding of how the artificial fourth is using the crisscrossing for many various purposes, including different types of energetic effects on either rising up the elemental energies, which allows for a lot of weird little, the silverfish, for instance, they are a good giveaway that the elementals are working in alignment, especially if there's crisscrossing on the sky. Whatever's left of the colonizing races under the scavengers. So that's a giveaway from that one. Including the different types of insects that we get in our home will also give indications of what type of action that is now in play within the colonizers and the insectoids. The birds around us as well. That's the avian groups that are showing us that they are now in charge of our reality field. Remember the timeshare. That's part of the rotundum, to learn on what days and what weeks and within what months are the different groups operating, since that makes it easier for us to know what's going on in our clearing work, and we can then aim it using principle 2, the balancing point, as in when we know it's that group, then we know it's that type of genetics, then we know it's that type of technology, and then we know it's that type of response that will either be in our vibrational field or in our radiation field, and onward and so forth. That's part of the expanded version of the rotundum. And even though I would love to tell you that this is how it works on specific weekdays and specific months and onward and so forth, I have seen the different groups as they change every year, where some of the ones are, a version of them are playing out in that month. And then the next year, a different version of them is playing out. And unless you are observant of these nuances yourself, then it's going to be difficult for you to really do the clearing work as it's supposed to. Meaning that if I tell you that in that month, that's that group, then you will be completely focused on what I have told and not what you're experiencing. So one of the ways to get through the next 9 years and the braiding of the timelines and the converging of them to the completion cycle is to learn to see and feel and sense what's going on your own, which I have focused on extensively in the basic and advanced clearing work courses, as well as in the 7 transition science courses, where I talk my way through the environment of your home, your own energy system, the interconnectedness to the planet, and everything that you need to know. And after you've done this course material, I strongly suggest, if you haven't done them already, go back and re-listen to them one more time, and then understand it in the context of how to get yourself clear out of specific type of energies that pulls you into the specific type of timelines, because that's where it really plays in the understanding of how to avoid being stuck on specific timelines. The next level that we are to understand is in context and connection to our sun. In the course on the challenges of the sun material as well as the material on the stargates, I've explained some of the different gates that will open and close due to the changes in our holographic network on our planet, which allows for different groups to come in as well as with their different types of connection points into the global network of our solar system, allows for different entities to rise up, as I said, giving specific effects inside the enclosure. And then we have from the sun itself, and that's what I have fresh in memory. So I was giving the heads up, you can go for a walk today, and the reason why I could that was because there was a clear blue sky. There was a natural sky. And the energies were physical. There was not much opening into any higher levels, forms of ideas and configuration. Plus, I was tired after having worked with the first tier of this course the day before. Now, while walking, I noticed, and as I have talked about other places as well, how the energies of the planet are affecting my physicality. As our sun is changing, so are the magnetic field. And the magnetic field around a planet affects the Schumann resonance, that affects the molecular level, that affects the proton level of our physicality. And that's the energy providing level. It goes with the spleen, it goes with the heart, and it goes with the old prana triangle, and it goes with the hara quadrant. So these things are interconnected. And as the sun shifts its energy, well, these older versions of them comes to life as explained in Tarology in the oldest version of them. Unfortunately, as you know, these have been reverse engineered, and on the first layers of it will be to clear out the inserted genetic fragments of the different races that are here, as explained earlier in this course, and not the original version of it. So we could say as the sun reconfigures, not only does it amplifies the older levels of our reality field, pushing that up to the surface as part of the new grand cycle dynamics to clean up and clear out. And we have the completion of the timelines and the braiding of the timelines and the different racial lineages and their completion cycles, what they consciously and energetically must clear up or leave behind, that is to do the effects of their karma, of all of the cycles that we have been through, coming to a head in the completion cycles via the different timelines. So you can say the timeline braiding and the converging of timelines is that whatever is stuck there will surface. It must surface within humanity, and it must surface within the groups that are still here. Hence AI, hence androids, hence everything mechanically. And the groups that would have been affected by it have traveled either into the future or positioned themselves in parallel realities, and will then come back, where they then will deal with whatever is there on a different level. We could say a diminished capacity, but at least they won't go through the 9 years of clearing out the 2-8 pillar. Since many of these groups have misused these energies for selfish purposes, and they would not make it, or they would be pushed into the timelines of the ones that are stuck here, similarly as the lost souls in the underworld. And that would be their foreseen futures. If they don't make it, if they don't do the transmutation, if they don't do the synergetic leap or the transfiguration or whatever happens, they are perhaps hoping for, or getting the right configuration. I don't know how they are going to avoid the effects of their choices and their past lives and what they have been doing so far and all the deeds and the misdeeds that they have done. So I don't see any solution to that whatsoever. However, you could also say, since some of them are semi-eternal, if they're not living through the gate systems that are opening and closing over the next 9 years to allow them to leave through the 2-8 pillar, whatever's left there, which will probably keep me busy, or whatever's going on, well, then it would be the abyss. And some of them are hoping for that, because being stuck here for so long in these cycles, that's not something we would wish for anyone. So circling around, going into the sun. The sun affects the Hara quadrant, it affects the prana triangle, it affects the vibrational field, and it affects the racial grid and affects the planetary grid. And with that, it affects our biology. It affects the proton level, and the electron level is coming to a head as part of the 3-9 pillar cleanup processes. And since that is now being pushed into AI and artificial upholding by the Hadron Colliders and the new quantum network, and linked up to alien technologies and all the things they have put in place to make sure that the reality field configuration in itself will now be upheld by different forms of new types of third cycle energies that are connected to the parallel universal matrix and other completely technocratically driven worlds that will probably within the next 9 years, whatever will come, will ensure an infrastructure there. Whatever happens to humanity, AI will run it automatically, which is a little bit similar to, you remember the old movie from the 90s called War Games, where the computer ran multiple simulations of different forms of scenarios and then actually ended up in creating a simulation of war that was ridiculous because it did not understand the difference between being in a simulated reality where all possibilities were there and then the actual effects and how it's going to affect humanity. And some of the timelines that grows out of the different scenarios where everybody on this planet ceases to exist or go into stasis or go underground or go to other reality fields or go off planet and go to Mars or whatever, then the technology will run the planet until the worst is over and there are no biological forms left and only the technology, the planet, the infrastructure, and then some of these groups will come back. So that's one of the future scenarios as well. Nobody knows how bad it's going to be with the sun. So as I said, in the challenges of the sun and star courses, I go into details about this. So I will not dive into that level of information. That's for you to listen to these courses on your own. What we can say is for now, and as I have been living the last 5 years or more, there are days where I simply just can't go out. And I've been trying to teach people this, saying, don't go out, but most people are so ingrained in that they need to have fresh air every day. And they are, how am I to do this and that, whatever, if I can't go outside? And for now, people have the possibility. There are some of the hybrids that are not being affected by the crisscrossing. There are others that are being highly affected by it, and their bodies are now deteriorating. And that's been labeled different things and are called different things. And I will not give it a name here, but whatever the explanations are, it's part of the crisscrossing and whatever's been dropped from the sky that is breaking down the human genome. But not only that, we are also having the shift of the sun that activates older types of layers of our genomes. I talked about that too, with the different forms of older types of microbiota that will show itself as fungi and other forms of insects we haven't had before that will surface a new species, and changes in the human genome that will lead to new types of undiscovered mutations on a cellular level that has not been seen before. And here again, the different forms of new technologies that were developed the last 5 years will then come and play within the different tiers of human everyday life. And again, there are specific things I'm not mentioning by name here, but you can read between the lines that we were already tested with. This can be solved if only you get painted blue. So that's how they're going to play around that one to ensure the prolonging as much as possible, while within these tiers under the transhuman agenda, there will be inserted different forms of clones. We have already seen that happening as well. And since they can literally replace a human being that is so similar to the original version, the only thing that is similar is the way they think and feel. And since we are already undergoing different progression levels and developmental processes, who knows? Just be aware that that's in play as well. So the whole Converging of Timelines is a kind of an consciousness expansion to a degree where we can begin to question whether or not we are completely sane. And that's where the psychological work and the understanding of keeping up the psychic energetic balance will become one of the most important tools. So the whole thing goes with the change of the sun that affects the Schumann resonance, that also affects our emotional field. Aside from the planetary and the racial grids, that also affects the emotional field. And the 3-9 pillar that goes with the electron, that is part of biology, that is now linking up to new quantum fields, that are now linked up to new quantum technologies, have created a new type of reality that were brewed out of the understanding of the event program, or whatever they've been trying. They're tailoring now one that runs artificially, completely on the future quantum computers that are now being bridged from the future and back into our reality field via the type of quantum computers we have now and the hadron colliders in the new quantum field, as I did in that little podcast on the future humanities, where I talk a little bit about the new technology that's been implemented. So that's taking care of the electrons. How do we then go through with the changes of the sun? Being plant fruitarians, of course, and dealing or figuring out how to produce our own food, that's going to naturally arise from some of the challenges that are coming due to the changes of our reality field, since, as I said, the sun, the magnetic field, the Schumann resonance, which also affects the weather. Aside from what the transhuman agenda is doing to avoid some of the changes of the sun, using these crisscrossing to block the energies of the sun, and at the same time dropping stuff that are altering the human genome. Again, a lot of stuff. So I just keep pushing this in, and then you'll just say, how am I going to live in a world where all of this plays in all the time? It comes down to energy work. It comes down to your readability, to your readiness, and your ability to be ready of how to deal with these energetic challenges, such as, yes, there are days, there are whole weeks where I don't go out because they constantly crisscross. And I get affected by it. I get affected by it via, it gets into my body. It causes these heat flashes. No, it's not because I'm in my 50s. It alters my genome in these different types of heat structures as my body burns off the nanites and try to break them down. And then whatever's left will then come out through my skin, which is very unpleasant. It looks as if I got psoriasis or something else, which I haven't. But it is these things that comes out, because the reason why I know it's not that is because out of these things I get, whatever that is, these spots, I get, there's this little buckyball thing that comes out of it, that comes out not because I have created some kind of wound or anything. It naturally just comes out. It grows, and then that thing comes out, and then the blister vanishes and ceases to be. So this is a huge effect I have on my body. So I get a direct effect of going out when they are doing crisscrossing. So I prefer not to, literally, because not only does it change my biology, it makes my body feel uncomfortable, it weakens me, and at the same time I get these unpleasant skin rashes. The other side effect of the changes of the sun, as I talked about, is part of the intestines. It's part of the energy producing area that goes with the Hara quadrant, that goes with the previous prana triangle. And that's where we understand that we are no longer getting energy infusions from the sun as we normally did. Our old type of proton level was depending on the energy circulation from the Schumann resonance via the prana triangle, and then energizing our body. And that is no longer there. So as explained in the Challenges of the Sun course material, we then need to learn to shift out of that. And that's the mastery of the Hara quadrant. That is to recalibrate it out of this reconfigured connection to the astral barrier and the chakra system, transforming that into being the original functionality. And if it can't, then completely disassemble it and then develop whatever your holographic energetic energy system tells you this is the right way to go around this. This is how you adjust yourself to dealing with the energies of the sun. And until I have found a solution to that, which I haven't yet, I'm staying indoors, as I explained in the Transition Science course material, with the advanced work with nutrition, as well as the advanced work with the rotundum that goes in. How do we then create an inner space? How do we create an environment in our home where we can Those of us who not have the possibility of going underground or going into caves or whatever, or retract from society, how do we create an environment where we will survive? And crystals are a huge part of that. Unfortunately, there are also places in our home, as I got the room downstairs, where the energies are so close to the planet and there's a negative portal down there. So I don't have crystals in that room. I'm literally putting it dormant instead so that they won't have the amplification of the crystals that they can sustentate from. So crystals can both be our best friends, but they can also harbor the dark light technology, which is why they have occupied many of the crystal caves with some of the raptor races that are highly affecting the plasma core levels of our planet as well. These are some of the deeper implications of, the converging of timelines and our ability to move our way through that is the understanding that it is biological via the electrons that are now connected to the new quantum grid, the new alien technologies, artificial AI, and the new infrastructure. That we will need to monitor. We will need to monitor it with fewer hours in front of the computer, fewer hours with our electronics on, as in kind of when you go to bed, close down your phone. If you don't want to close it down entirely, put it on airplane mode so it doesn't keep connecting to the grid out there. So it shuts down, as we have learned it in the airplane. We shut it down so it doesn't affect the different instruments and the navigation tools and what have you that's part of the plane. So we go in airplane mode on our phones when we go to sleep. Use less electric forces, including shut down your computer, by the way, when you go to sleep. Make sure that if you do have a clock close to your bed, let it not be a one that runs on electricity. Let it not be one that runs on digital or smartphone or Philip Hue or link up to any GPS, satellite infused, whatever. Make it a good old watch that runs on either battery or crystal quartz or something else that runs on its own. So this is not, that can of course be affected too. So that's the electron level, including the different forms of electromagnetic energies, and that is part of our food, that is part of our environment, that is part, we have had the LED light bulbs, of course, that are also part of that agenda, and onward and so forth. So this also comes down to, okay, if I can't have electricity on as I normally do, if I can't have whatever, we have to, okay, what I'm trying to say here, we have trained in Denmark the knowledge of to not use as much electricity as we normally have throughout the many last years, where the whole plot was to create as much electric currency as possible, currents as possible that will link up to the quantum computers, that will link up to the alien technology, so that they could get the whole infrastructure lit up with this type of electricity, with the quantum computers, with our everyday computers, with iPhones, with GPS, with SpaceX, with whatever is going on. All of that infrastructure is now in place, including on the ocean floor and the new fiber optic cords that are being buried in the ground everywhere on our planet. They have got the whole infrastructure now up and running. We choose whether or not we want to be part of it when we turn on our computer or turn it off, when we turn on our phone or turn it off. And the lesser time on the internet, the lesser time on your phone, and the lesser time connected to these electric devices that are coupled up to the internet, the better. The less affectability you have, especially males are highly susceptible due to the 3-5 configuration. So that must be taken into consideration, that those of us who are doing this, not just going off grid, but also in that manner, understand that everything that is now being put in place is something that connects to a specific faction, that connects to a specific timeline. And when we do, and if we choose to use it, because I am here uploading this on the internet, I'm using my computer and my phone to make this material. I am also keeping it within the realm of my home, within the energies of the right day, within the energies of the right hour, within when I upload it, I do the configuration of it so it matches the type of energy I want to produce in the material, so that even though it is partaking of the new infrastructure, then it creates a space in itself due to the space in itself I created in my own home, knowing how to do so by being who and what I am, having constantly upgraded my own energy system to hold up the configuration of the original holographic energetic network of our planet, the density 1 configuration. And I do that by the energy clearing, by following the principles as much as I can, by doing the work I can of releasing and transforming and transmuting, and by living this every day. In spite of whatever comes my way, I balance out to the principles and the rules and the laws of energy. So this is my everyday life. No matter what happens, then I need to get back into the balance where I reconnect with the original restoration program and what's supposed to happen here to undo the effects of the timeline event. So that's the balancing point for me, getting back into that, where I know this is me, this is what I'm here to do. The challenges of the energies of the sun that goes with the proton layer, that goes again with our emotional field, that goes with the whole metabolism and the burning off of energies and transforming of energies as part of our physicality. That's the heat flashes. That's the different changes in the molecular state where the ATP, and that is the energy producing unit in both within the cells, the organelles themselves are changing from becoming what we could say dormant electromagnetic types of cellular structure that mainly ran by the electromagnetic energies oriented towards the electric pole, so to speak, the minus the negative pole that goes with electromagnetic energies, whereas the plus is what we call more magnetically oriented, as in pulling in, and where the other one is emitting or ejecting things and creating residuals. The protons are the plus, or the incoming energies of the sun. Since the sun is shedding off and transforming completely, then those of us who have worked with our clearing processes and have amplified our vibrational field to have a higher vibrational state and transforming energies much quicker, we will then have the different similar types of effects of the kinetic processes of the sun. We will be in tune with the sun, feeling when the sun is bursting off and when the sun is transforming and when the sun is shifting its different types of energy configuration, getting into being a cold sun. What does that mean? The cold sun literally means that instead of having the flame codes that looks like flames due to the proton and electron processes that are part of this physical form, the proton level will change into what we call a white flame configuration. And that's not the lunar white flame. This is something entirely else because it has a golden hue to it. And those of us who have been working with the transfiguration of our biological field and have begun the work of learning to work with the energies of our food, and have been learning to work with the energies of our environment, have been learning to work with the different configurations of the root vortex, the heart vortex, and the mind vortex, and learn to work with the radiation code systems themselves, we have an advantage. Because we can see how the codes in our fields, our biological field changes due to the changes of the sun. When I forget that, then I get different forms of things happening in my intestinal area. And I can see how I produce energetic parasites that are then gathering around in my vibrational field. And with that, I get different things coming into my field. So you can say the lesser observant I have of my clearing work, the more different types of energetic entities and energies from the different reality fields have a possibility of entering into my field. What I mainly wanted to say here and share here in this one is that once we are connected to the energies of the sun, for instance, today it's blowing, the wind is blowing, you could say, is that created by the crisscrossing or is it due to the solar storms? And normally, right now it's the solar storms. The sun is throwing off a lot of energy in these days and been doing it for a while and continue to do so, which will also give a ringtone in the Schumann resonance that creates what we call arbitrary and erratic type of weather. So once we hear, if we can hear that, it's not a tinnitus, it's an energetic, it's with the inner hearing, it's not the outer hearing. You can't hear it as the outer hearing. It's an inner hearing, and you can feel it like if you were doing, those of us who've been working with creating sounds in our own healing processes, such as Om, we have also learned how sounds calibrate our vibrational field in different ways. And the most powerful ones are the sounds that has no sound. They are soundless, but they have a vibration to it. And these are the ones that goes with our radiation field and the code sequences. So when the sun is shredding off and shedding off all of these different types of energies, then it creates that vibration in our vibrational field, similar to the resonance field around our planet. And we can leave out the Schumann, that's just a guy that discovered it, but the resonance field, similarly as we have the biofield, the vibrational field, and the radiation field, so does our planet. It has the physical level, it has the vibrational that goes with the weather system. And then they have it's the ionosphere that goes with, quote unquote, the radiation or the mental field that's connected to the magnetic field on the upper levels around our planet. So the magnetic field are similar to the energy currents that we have in our body. And once we begin to understand that, then we begin to understand that our neural networks connect to the ionosphere and whatever technology that's up there now affecting that. Our emotional field is connected to the resonance around the planet that goes with the weather systems, which are being affected by the different things and the crisscrossing on the sky. So that means that those of us who have activated the progression dynamics, we are more susceptible for whatever's being dropped from the sky, and we are targeted for the very same purpose. Others that are not doing the work at all, they are also being targeted. But that's kind of what we call genetic modification for whatever that is. And I'll not go into that. And then we have the biological field that's connected to the electric grid that is now running via the new quantum network. So again, as we are, those of us who are doing these processes, not only do we have the different timelines where we have things that will come in from below and above, we are also having that just within the three fields of who and what we are inside this physical reality. So the timeline braiding is all with our holographic energetic structure. The new grind cycle, elevation, and cleanup process is all about a holographic energetic structure that goes with the original holographic energetic units, as well as the consciousness potentials of the original civilizations and the ones that came after, which includes us. And then we have the shift of the sun and whatever's going on inside our reality that's connected to the electron and the protons and the neutrons. And that is in a flux and in a change as well, which will affect our physicality and our emotional field and our mental fields. And again, those of us who have dealt with our emotional stuff, it's easier for us to see what's going on and feel the shift of the vibration of the sun. And as the shift of the sun changes, because the fields around the sun are in alignment with the 9 layers of our emotional field. And as the sun shifts off this and begins to disintegrate these, then these fields will disintegrate in our emotional field as well. The 9 rings that are connected to the emotional field that are under the astral barrier and the old prohibiting technologies will begin to disintegrate and fall apart. And with that, the rings that are around us will fall and collapse as well. And whatever they're connected to will have to surface and be cleared out and then disintegrated. And then that field level must collapse and disintegrate. And we must partake in that. If we don't, then it has to go somewhere that's into physicality. Whatever's not cleared energetically must collapse into the physical form. Because that's the end place. That's the step before the abyss. That's where whatever entropy and residuals and whatever that energetic parasites that's not been taken care of, they will then attach to the physical form. And that's where we could say one of the things that they are seeing in the parallel universal matrix races, they are just waiting for the human form to collapse. And with that, everything that's connected to that will then cease to exist. And then they can swoop in and take over with their different configurations. Of course, we have some of the other groups that are trying to prevent that from happening. So what we can do is the understanding of the different levels of our physicality, of the different levels of what is targeting our fields and how to administer and monitor that. And that's a full-time job. Completely. People say, how am I even going to go to work and deal with this on an everyday life? And that's where, as I said, not possible. You unfortunately, most of us will have to find a way to create some kind of business that is running on the internet and the different types of quote unquote virtual reality that's being created around us. But we will also learn not to use AI at all. I would not recommend that whatsoever. We produce everything from scratch. We produce our food from scratch. At some point, some of us will have to literally create our own garden where we produce our own food. Those of us who really want to do the full transition, that's the natural outcome of that. Go rural communities, go away from the cities and make it out there. We will have to monitor our own emotional fields and the ones that are around us, the ones we choose to be around. We will choose our communities wisely and be on the same page with whatever's going on, understanding which groups of people we are dealing with. So creating our own environment, creating our own homes, monitoring the space there, producing our own food, choosing who we will be close to, who we will have in our lives, and the ones that are on the periphery, we will learn how to administer the energetic effects of our encounters, quote unquote. Our businesses will be on the AI net. We will not use the AI. We will produce everything self. We will administer the energies of it. We will make sure it will hold that configuration. And if it can't, we will erase it and delete it and leave that platform and find another one. So as we are jumping timelines or are learning to administer the different timelines influences, because as we go into the 2025, 2034 with the converging of timelines, we can no longer jump timelines, but we can get ourselves out of the mess of them by reconfiguring our energy, by transforming whatever's been put into our field, by administering whatever comes our way, making sure that the litter, the residuals and the dissonance and the whatever's left of distortion will have a minimum effect of us. Similarly as with our food, similar with exercise, we will learn how to exercise most efficiently every day to keep up the muscular structure so that the ATP, that is the energy producing faculty of our muscular structure, will be able to generate the type of energy that goes with the new type of proton energies that are connected to the new type of configuration of the sun. More than in the old days where there was more focus on cardio, as in run, cycle, go outside, do something where you breathe and where you produce what we call energies via oxygen, via the blood vessels themselves. The shift is now more to focus on the internal processes of the body that goes with the ATP, that goes with connecting to the network of the planet. But we can only do that if we have cleansed out the root vortex, because if we have not cleansed out the root vortex, then our body will naturally connect to the networks of the planet that are part of what we call the 2-8 pillar and the distortion fields that we don't want to be connected to. And that's determined by our emotional field and how much we have cleared of that and our subconscious and our past lives. What is important for me to teach you here and get you into the thought process of here is to understand the interconnectedness you have with the reality field you're part of. That's going to be what will enable you to make it or not. This is not about avoiding fear. This is about learning to deal with everything we are, including fear and including the challenges that we will have as part of the braiding and the converging of timelines. The most important thing is that whatever we are energetically will begin to manifest inside physical reality. The changes of the sun will affect the weather and the planetary grid itself, which will affect our biology. The alien technologies are making an infrastructure that will stand no matter what, but that will affect the electric level of our magnetic field. And that will be linked up to the parallel universal matrices that goes with the transhuman agenda. The other groups will try to get us into their timelines via the consciousness, what we could say insertions and interception and what have you. And that's where we have a stronger chance of what we could say transform that, whereas the electron AI thing is difficult. That's not really possible to transform. What we can ensure is that we minimize our accessibility and our usage of that to a minimum degree, so that whatever we come in contact with can easily be cleared out, and we can reconfigure our radiation field to not be aligned with the technocratic realities. That's also part of this 1-7 pillar work that we will have to do eventually, where we'll then have to work our way out of the dependency on these different types of electric connected, the electric level of our reality that goes with the third cycle energies, working our way out of that. Right now, we are dealing with the proton level, our emotional field, and the ability to produce energy in our physicality, in our body, not depending on the outer environment, not depending on going outside, and not depending on the energy absorption of food, and not depending on the prana triangle and the prohibiting technologies and all of the old ways that our body normally work. We need to reconfigure our emotional field into being able to keep the balance. We need to transform the Hara quadrant so it no longer has the prana triangle, and get back into reconfigure our biological level, turning into the biologically engineered form that is connected to the original holographic network of the density 1. And the only way to do that is to learn to administer the original density 1, or the outer domain configuration that goes with the white flame. And I talk about the 12 Maldakian flames that are part of that technology that came from Maldak and were infused into our planetary network after the timeline event due to the merging. But we must also be observant that many of these flames were completely misused for transformational processes and engineering and wrongful use of energy and power during the times of Atlantis. So many of these flames are highly contaminated as well. There's only one way to get through this, and this is to administer our energy system and our consciousness potentials in its original form by our heart energy and by our strong capacity to transform energy. It is about the knowledge and the understanding of who and what we are, and the ability to see and sense and operate and work with energy as part of our different fields. And I know for a certainty that many of you have not worked in depth with your emotional field to the degree you should have. Many have not been forced into all these extremes of their emotional field because you have not been part of the programs I have been part of. I've been challenged to the uttermost degree of what is possible as a human being. And as I said, if it wasn't because of whatever I am to begin with, I would not have made it whatsoever. What I'm seeing and sensing and what I learn every time strengthens me, but I would not wish it for anyone. It would not be a program I would put anyone through whatsoever. I don't have the golden solution. What I can do here is I can say there are these possibilities that are getting into the converging of timelines that are going to outlive their content inside this reality. What you have not cleared out will surface. And if you can't clear it out, then it will manifest as physical ailment. Via that last resort, as I talk about the physicality as well in the transition sciences, then you can work through the place where you have the physical response. but we are also having complete structure change of our physicality due to the changes of the energies of the sun and the electrons that are being changed by the quantum network. That too gives physical pain. That too gives physical stress. That too creates different types of physical response mechanisms that not necessarily are something that we can clear out. The only thing we can do is to learn to be in these very strained type of environment constantly, physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, and consciously, and timeline wise, alien incoming group wise, AI technology wise, on all levels of your being are we being challenged, as I also talk about in the Changemaker material. There's not one level of us that's not going to be challenged the next 9 years. And those who will get through are the ones that knows how to balance, how to clear, how to self-heal, how to self-scan, how to see what's coming and knowing what to do with it and knowing when not to do anything about it, knowing when to turn the other cheek and knowing when to look at it and when not to look at it, when to engage in it and when not to engage in it. The ones that are capable of following the principles in their everyday life when we talk about energy and consciousness. The ones that follows the rules of engagement in whatever encounter we have, whether it's energetic or actual. And the ones that knows the natural laws of energy utilization and how to work without creating distortion more than there already is, and learning how to navigate through the different energetic challenges that we are having and that are coming our way. So that's part of the challenges that we have in front of us. And with that summation, in these 3 podcasts I have here done today on Friday the 13th, I will here complete this little mini section. The first 3 ones were about the timeline event and how that came to be and the completion cycles. Now we have talked a little about the challenges and what we can do and what's most important there. Unfortunately, not giving the solutions as a package, do this and this and this, but still giving indications that if you listen to it again and you take notes and you write it down, you will get an overview of what I actually have said and then figure out how you can tailor that to your life and your experiences and what solutions that you could begin to work towards within the next 12 months that we have technically in 2024 to arrange ourselves and prepare for the full incoming effect of the next 9 years that will come our way in 2025. Thank you.